So this is also one of those landmarks to which people just make stuff up, just completely make it up. So you had a British so-called archaeologist in the 1800s named Robinson. And when Robinson visited the Valley of Beersheba, he just saw a well. It fits somewhat of the description that you see in Genesis concerning Abraham, and then just proclaim that this must have been Abraham's well, so this must have been Abraham's houses. They're also the house of Isaac and Jacob. But there are absolutely zero inscriptions in and around that space that would let you know who actually owned this well. And as a matter of fact, a Arab sheik built a house on top of it after the Ottomans, after they took over that area. So there is one inscription on there. That inscription dates back to the 12th century BCE, which has, and so not the Ottomans, I didn't mean to say Ottomans, but there is an inscription on it that dates the well back to the 12th century BCE, which is way, way too late for it to be Abraham's well. But you can tell the construction was done after the well had already been there. So the well was there prior to the Arab sheik building his house there. There's actually no dating on the well to let you know when the well was actually dug, when it was actually built. But most likely, was it built over 4,000 years ago? Most likely not. But what we can see is how in those 1800s, archaeologists had a spade in one hand and the Bible in another hand. They didn't do true archaeological research to be able to determine whether something was something or not. They just would proclaim it to be. And thus, people just believe it. And they believe it wholeheartedly. This is the problem with faith, is that in the face of no facts, or in the face of facts, your belief seems to take over. If this was Abraham's well, then it would stand to reason that within that area, somewhere within the vicinity, you would be able to find the tomb to which Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Jacob, Bilhah, and Joseph were all buried. Now, you most likely wouldn't find any of those bodies except for Joseph's body. The reason why you should be able to find Joseph's body is because, and according to the story in Genesis, Joseph was mummified in the Egyptian way. And we know that for the most part, in that area of the world, Egyptian mummification is what we have been able to find. But yet, the cave in Horeb, I think it's Horeb, where his body should be buried, we cannot find it. So therefore, it's just what people have decided. And you have many sites that are done this way, where someone proclaimed it in the 1800s, and because of time, people and acceptance, people have just believed it. So now you go there and it's a tourist trap. You go there as a tourist, you can watch it, you got little videos about it, you got Steamboat, you got all kinds of pamphlets and things of that nature, because it is merely just a tourist trap. And it reminds me of how in the during the time frame of the Crusades, how many different sites all throughout the Levant were declared to be the site of this or the site of that. This is where Jesus was baptized in the Jordan River. They actually have no idea where. They just put up a place and said, this is where it is. You go to Bethlehem and they say, this is the house where Jesus was born in the manger, which is a level below the house where small animals are kept. But guess what? There are no inscriptions, no ancient inscriptions on that house to let you know that this was Joseph's family's house. They just picked a house that looks similar to what the Bible describes, but what the Bible is describing is what most houses look like today. We are riding across country, and in every state, in every city we pass, almost every house looks the same. Just like you look at the skyline of a lot of cities, like being grown up in Atlanta, you look at the skyline of Atlanta, there are certain buildings that look exactly like the skyline in Charlotte. Why? Because the same builders went up there and built that, or the same architects were used, or the same designs, the same plans were used over and over again. So you have this replication. So you would have had a replication of similar homes to what the Bible describes as far as Joseph's house. You would have descriptions that are similar to how people built wells and built homes during the so-called time of Abraham. So any place will do, basically. And because any place will do, people are apt to just follow it and just continue to believe in it without having any hardcore facts or in the face of facts. And the fact of the matter is, they have no idea. But to claim a place makes the Bible real to you. If you go to the Garden Tomb in Israel, the Garden Tomb looks how a tomb was done back in the time frame of 1 CE, 30 CE, 33 CE. And so therefore they just say, this must be the tomb. And people go there and they say, oh, this is where Jesus was buried. I feel the power. I feel the energy. No, you're feeling your own energy. You're feeling yourself is what you're feeling, because you're feeling your belief and the emotions that you've connected to it. You have absolutely no idea if this is the real place or not. And I fell victim to that myself when I was 20 and 21 and I was in Israel and I went to many of these so-called holy places, and my emotions caused me to feel the energy of Jesus in Bethlehem, to feel the energy of Jesus when I was on Mount Calvary, to feel it when I was in the Garden Tomb, but felt it again when I was at the tomb on Mount Calvary, which could not have been possible, which is one of the reasons why I started saying that doesn't make sense. My second visit to Israel is when I went to the Garden Tomb. I said, this makes more sense than what they have on Calvary. And I started questioning things like, well, okay, so why are there two? Oh, the Protestants didn't have money when Israel was taken by the Europeans. And so therefore, they just got a little garden tomb because that's all they could grab up. And even though theirs is more accurate to the description, it made me realize they just picked the spot. Just like this so-called Abraham's house, they just picked a spot. And if your faith, if your belief is based on people just picking spots and people just writing stories, then I can write a new religion today and people will believe it. Kind of like Deconstruction does with Klopfendorf and his son Gordon. So that's about the same mentality, that anybody can make up anything and it will work. And people will believe it because people are afraid to look within themselves and see the divinity within themselves and understand how the universe, how the cosmos actually works, what forces cause everything to happen. And the first force, the most powerful force, is your own mentality. This is why I always say you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.